What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Beyond the 90. Thank you so much for joining in. And we have Ali from is it Pride of South London TV? Sorry, I've got that one wrong.
Pride of South London Fan TV, that's the one, yeah.
Brilliant.
And
I'll leave his
your first ever away fan guest, so here I am again.
Yes, so yeah, thank you for coming on again. And man, that match, that 3-0 just seems such a long time ago. I mean, this year it was really dragged.
Yeah, I think, was that Jamie Vardy's 100th goal or something in that game?
I think the 100th goal came. Yes, it was the 100th goal. Yes.
Oh, yeah. That was a good day for you guys. Not so much for me. And here I am again on the back of a 7-0 defeat. So you can't say I don't front up.
Well, speaking of that, obviously you had the 7-0, but you also have the 5-1 or 5-0 game that you had against West Brom as well. So it's. For Crystal Palace this season, is it just been the same as most teams? It's like the consistency is just not there.
Yeah, absolutely. Not much consistency. I mean, to be honest, the 7-0 Liverpool was just one you just take on the chin. It was a bit of a weird game. The first half, we actually played pretty well, but they were just so clinical. I think they had something like 8 shots on goal and scored 7. So it's just one that you dust yourself off and you go again, because the 2 games before that, you alluded to it, we beat West Brom 5-1 and then we got the point against Spurs. So we just got to try and get back to that mentality and get ourselves going again. So I think it's just one you take on the chin and you move on, hopefully.
Yeah, I think you guys will move on, and especially with Roy Hodgson. There was a lot of, especially when he came into the club and what happened there, and he just seems to be pulling out results this season again and again. And before, I was thinking that obviously Palace will be dragged into a relegation fight again. But you guys, even though you've made some decent signings, you still are in that kind of bottom of the table. But I'm really happy that you're actually doing stuff, and especially against the Tottenham game, for example. I think you must be well happy with that point, because obviously with their Mourinho and how Tottenham set up, the fact that you went out and got a draw probably annoyed the hell out of them. That probably did quite well for you.
Yeah, I mean, the Tottenham game, Mourinho I don't know why he set up the way he did in the second half. He just sat back and he just allowed Zaha and Eze to come at them. And whereas, as Liverpool showed at the weekend, if they just had a bit more of a go, they would have beaten us. So it's just that classic Mourinho park the bus when they've got a lead. And having just played both Liverpool and Tottenham in consecutive games, Liverpool to me look by far the favourites to win it out of those two. And obviously yourselves are back in the equation again, aren't you? So
yeah, it's a strange one with us because there's a part of Leicester fans, I think, they've been supporting them for a long time. They're like, we're still happy to be in the Premier League because, as you know, not being drawn into a relegation fight is not a good place to be, where you're worrying about the goal difference and the points and the people around you. It's not nice. But at the same time, yeah, we're doing well. But at the same time, I think there's only 7 points that separates us and like 10th. So pretty much, and I think like Aston Villa have a game in hand. I think Man City have a game in hand. So them places are going to change a lot as well. But again, happy to be in the top 4 position. So obviously you've got players like Benteke, Zaha that have been really, really pivotal for you guys, and especially with players like Benteke, who is dead and buried. And I know you've got in your bio that you're still a Benteke fan. And again, it's brilliant to see how Roy Hodgson has picked these players up and go, right, even though we're playing a more defensive system, we're still going to give you the opportunities to play. And I think he's done an amazing job.
It's funny, but there's not that, actually, you'd be surprised, not that much love for Roy Hodgson amongst Palace fans. There's actually, I think with the last time I was on, the way I described it to you, and you all sort of it reminded you of Claude Puel. He is quite defensive in his approach and a bit set in his ways, but he is very, very clever in the way he does certain things. And in my opinion, he doesn't get enough credit from certain sections of the Palace fans for that. In particular, the way this year he's utilised Wilfried Zaha. He's put him in a more central role, which means he's already got 7 goals. He's already beaten his stats from last season. He didn't have a great season by his standards last season. By putting him in that central role now, he can drift left, drift right. It's so much harder to pick him up. And if you sort of compare that to Aubameyang at Arsenal, who has played more predominantly from the left-hand side, he's had a reversal in stats. So he does do very, very clever things. I like The formation didn't work at the weekend because we got overrun in midfield, but I like the way he set us up. It's very fluid. What you'll see at the weekend is Zaha, Eze and Schlupp interchanging quite a lot. It's very fluid and it's hard to know where they're going. So whereas last season, everyone knew Zaha would be out on the left and would treble mark him, routinely assault him. Now they can't do that. They have to, so he can sort of veer off everywhere. And then you've also got Eze, a much more informed Andros Townsend when he plays, Schlupp back to fitness. So there's more for defence to think about. So I like the way he has set us up this season. He's just sometimes it's things like substitutions and the weekend where he should probably have been a bit more flexible in the formation, where he's a bit stuck in his ways. But overall, you can't. What I always say on my videos is, if I was the board in this season, just particularly with coronavirus, and it's so important not to go down, you'd absolutely, it's a no-brainer to keep him in the job. In their eyes, he must be doing an outstanding job. So.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason is because of the signings you've had. Obviously, this season you've got Batshuayi back on loan, Eze, Klein, and then Butland again, which was a really shrewd signing. So I think the strength and depth that you've got, as you're mentioning Townsend, which I have kind of forgot about, but as you mentioned, it's like brilliant. But you've got, and then these players have come in and they've come in for a role. So I think you got them for relatively cheap and like really good bargains at the same time. I remember mentioning before the season started that you had a really good transfer window. So the players that you've got in are quite something. And I think this season will hopefully, if you get a consistent run of form, can push you up into that top 10 position.
Yeah, I think Nathaniel Klein, first of all, is an absolute snip. But he's an interesting one because we actually bought Nathan Ferguson from West Brom, but he's been injured. So everyone's hoping that Klein signs a bit of an extension because he was bought short term to cover Ferguson. But he has sort of shown really why he's had the career that he's had. And then Butland is a really interesting one for me because before he got injured and Stoke got relegated, he was fighting to be England #1. But we have got Guaita, who's playing well. So he's currently, sitting on the bench. I don't think we'll see Butland until the Wolves game in the FA Cup. But Eze is something special. I mean, I just feel incredibly lucky that we've got him. I mean, over the years as a Palace fan, I've seen certain players who I saw and think this guy is going right to the top. Little actual known fact is that Ashley Cole was on loan at Palace at the start of his career. I remember seeing him, Klein, and obviously Wilfried Zaha, thinking these guys are going to be up there. These are absolute quality players. And that's the sort of feeling I get about Eze. And when he's on the ball, most things go through him. And I think that's where you'll see a massive change from that game we had in the post-lockdown period. Is we've got other threats apart from Zaha, and he is a really bright young talent. I think he's in England under-21s at the moment, but he will play for England. Fighting it out with Maddison with a shirt.
Yeah, Maddison's it's a weird one. We mentioned this on our show. Just post-match, we were talking about players that get into England and how for some reason Declan Rice, there's always top 6, and then Declan Rice for some strange reason always gets in. It's just a strange one to me that, again, players like Eze hopefully will get a look in. We've got the likes of James Justin for us that, again, is looking fantastic at the moment, like a really, really good player that can play on left and right and back three and everything.
In my fantasy football team, James Justin, he's doing very well.
Yeah, he's one to have, to be honest, because 4.5 mil, I think it was absolute steal, and he's with Ricardo coming back.
I'm in your league actually now, and I think I'm above you at the moment.
And I'm in yours as well, and I've not checked, so I'm probably below you even then. But yeah, if you want to join that, I'll try and link to them below. I forgot how to join that. I was all post lockdown. I don't think before lockdown I didn't have too much to do. But with Batshuayi, I know he is a decent player. I mean, you managed to get him firing this season, but I think as I was mentioning before, the strength and depth that you've got, especially all throughout the pitch, has been really, really good to see. And the fact that Batshuayi will come, do you think he'll come good later in the season? Because he started okay. He's kind of fallen off a little bit.
That is the big change in us, is that we have it used to be that Palace fans would moan about Hodgson and not using subs, but he didn't really have any options. Our options, as Hodgson says now, are really good. Batshuayi for me should be higher up in the pecking order. He's even below Jordan Ayew, and that's something I mentioned in my review of the Liverpool game. That's frustrating for me because he should be above Jordan Ayew. He's really unlucky. He had 3 goals disallowed for offside, and obviously VAR is VAR. Some of them were ridiculous. So I just feel like if he gets one, he'll go on a run. But his biggest issue right now is Christian Benteke is having one of the world's greatest comebacks and is reloaded the Aston Villa version of Christian Benteke. I mean, I didn't think this was going to happen. I thought there would be more chance of Harry Maguire spending his 2021 summer holiday in Mykonos. But Benteke is back, but you got to feel for the guy because he got a great header against West Ham, and then he got sent off for jumping for the ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, he will be back though. He's back against Villa, and hopefully. It's weird. Palace fans are desperate for Benteke to come back, and you mentioned that in my bio. I said I still believe in him, but I mean that got a bit loose as the months and the years went on. Really,
it's a weird one because sometimes you know that these kind of players, if they were to go somewhere else, will end up picking up points and going and scoring against you because it's because I think Leicester is quite a prime zone for Zaha and Benteke over the years.
Yeah, I think it's weird, isn't it? Because we're both counter-attacking teams. So I always think Palace v Leicester's a weird one. How is it going to go? Because we both like to counter-attack. What I think will happen is, as I said, because of Zaha's more central role this season, I think where he might get some joy is just drifting left and right because you've got attacking fullbacks who I think are very good fullbacks, but he might get some space in that sense. And then also, I don't know, I've been hearing some stuff that Leicester fans are sort of saying that they think Johnny Evans might be getting past it a bit. Can he get one-on-one with a player I rate, but can he get one-on-one with Johnny Evans as well? So I think that's where we might be able to get some joy from the game. But we'll see.
We will. I think a lot of fans are a lot of fans, especially on like Twitter and stuff, are very passionate about Leicester, but they've only seen them since they came into the Premier League. And Johnny Evans is a absolutely brilliant defender. And without him, the likes of Soyuncu, the likes of Fofana won't be as good as they are because he's coached them. And a lot of Soyuncu's best appearances has been alongside Johnny Evans. When he's had Wes Morgan, it's not the same. So the fact that they're calling for his head is absolutely stupid. Again, with Fuchs as well, you probably know on your side, experience trump. Yeah. People say youth and yes, experience, but experience is just, you can't put a price on it because it matters so much to the squad. I think you've seen it with likes of Tim Cahill for you guys because it just changes the way that you play football.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for your Johnny Evans, that's our Gary Cahill. I mean, just at the weekend, people started writing off Gary Cahill based on that Liverpool game, which is unfair because I think, like you said, he coaches a lot of the players through the game and you can see his experience. So, but I do think that is an area where you could potentially get joy is if you get Vardy on the shoulder of Cahill. But obviously with a quick succession of the games over Christmas, I don't know whether Cahill will play. I think he'll play. I don't think Hodgson will play him in both. I think you'll have Scott Dann in one and Gary Cahill in the other. I don't know what way round that will be, but either way, if you've got Cahill or Scott Dann, I think Vardy will try and get on their shoulder, and that's where you probably will get some joy, I reckon. But hopefully not.
Yeah, to be fair, it's been all sorts of. I think over the last couple of years, I think 4-0 win for you guys, 3-0 another time. I think we won 3-0, and then there's been a couple of boring 0-0s in there as well. But I think when we weren't playing the most attractive football, it was 0-0s and stuff. But I think hopefully it's gonna be a good game. Just one person you've touched on briefly, I want to bring it back to is one person that came through our academy, somebody that we really love over here is Jeffrey Schlupp. Obviously, we came over to you guys. Yeah. We just wanted to know, how's he doing?
Yeah, Jeffrey Schlupp, he's doing well. I think he's one of those players that you appreciate more when he's not playing and you realise what he brings to the team. And definitely, I think Palace fans felt that in the post-lockdown period when he was injured because he's so crucial to our counter-attack. And he actually, at us, he's played central midfield a little bit. But he's now predominantly playing on the left-hand side. But when we're defending, he sort of tucks in and makes us a midfield central three, and then we break and counter really quickly. So yeah, he's done really well. He's got some really crucial assists and goals. He got the assist for our first goal at Old Trafford when we beat Man United at the start of the season, and then he got the equaliser against Spurs the other week. I just feel there's always, like, for me, I always feel like he could do a little bit more. There's just something missing, and sometimes I don't think he tracks back enough. I mean, technically he could be used as like a emergency left back, and I think our biggest weakness is at left back in Patrick Van Aanholt. His defensive positional sense is very poor. He's very good going forward, and I don't think Schlupp gives him enough protection sometimes. But overall, Schlupp's pretty well liked by Palace fans. He should play against you, but again, I think Hodgson will play Townsend in one and Schlupp in the other. So I don't know what way round he'll do that.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. Also, just because I know there's a lot of Patrick Van Aanholt talk about potentially going to Ajax and stuff like that, you've got a young man, Mitchell's coming through as well, and I had him in my fantasy from the beginning of the season as well, and he's looked pretty decent coming into the season. Is he one to look forward to for the future as well for Palace?
Yeah, definitely. I put this in my review at the weekend as well. This was really frustrating for me and a significant amount of Palace fans, is that he is a really good left back. Again, I was talking about players you see and you think they can go far. I'd say that on Mitchell. He was playing really well. He got injured, so then Patrick Van Aanholt came back from injury, and the only reason for Mitchell not being in the team now is that he got injured. He otherwise, I think he would have the shirt. Patrick Van Aanholt's very good going forward, but his positional sense is really poor. And then when we concede goals, he's anywhere other than he should be. I mean, we almost need Boris to bring in a tier 5 to make left backs in the SE25 area stay in their consigned position, because he's just it's basic Sunday League football stuff. And I would actually take a bid from Ajax in January for Patrick Van Aanholt and just let Mitchell grow as a player, because if Nathan Ferguson comes back, he can also play left back, and Klein's been used at left back before as well. But I don't know, that would be interesting. I think Mitchell might be back in. I think he might, because the games again are in quick succession. I think I've got a feeling he might do Patrick Van Aanholt in one and Mitchell in the other. But again, I don't know what way around that will be.
We will have to see, because again, as you were saying, we've got Man United 2 days before just on Boxing Day, and I think you've got Aston Villa as well. So it's I've never known games to come round this quick, and that's probably one of the main reasons why both of our teams been so inconsistent, and just the league in general.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a bit of that, and a bit of, I think the top teams aren't as good. Man City still not really where you'd think they would be. Liverpool, okay, we lost 7-0, but Virgil van Dijk's injury, suddenly teams think they can have more of a go. United are still inconsistent. Arsenal are going down. So, yeah, it is a bit of an up and down season. So it's hard to call. I just think it is a hard game. Palace Leicester's a hard game to call, I think, because, as you said, we had a lot of joy against you, and then last season you turned the tide on that. I mean, you're clear favourites based on your league position, but I do feel more confident going into this than I did when I last spoke to you. Yeah,
I think part of the issue as well is that Leicester, would be better as playing at home. For some reason, our home form is absolutely woeful, but our away form is actually pretty good at the moment. So I'm not sure exactly. We're not sure why that is. But again, we're complaining over the fact that we're still in the top 4 and everybody else is not having a good season as well. So we're doing all right. Just a quick one before we finish. I wanted to talk about, obviously, Arsenal and how, as you mentioned before, they're doing woeful. How does that feel as a Palace fan? Because obviously they must have given you absolute shtick over the years. And now that you're above them, I mean, you must be willowing that a little bit.
Well, mate, the Arsenal fans spent their summer having a free Saha campaign. So saying it was outrageous that we wouldn't let him go for the pittance fee that they offer us so that he could better himself. So as I am on social media every week pointing out, what was he betting himself for? A relegation battle. # free Saha. That's what I'd like to say.
Fair enough. I mean, hopefully I think he will stay for a while now. I think again, best of luck at the weekend. I know you've got a decent enough squad, and hopefully we'll be able to, well, may the best team win, because honestly, you can't, as you were saying, we just can't call this one.
Yeah, I mean, you can't call a lot of games this season, as you said, but I do think Leicester are doing really well. I'm a massive fan of Brendan Rodgers. And I think just the fact that he's got you back up for it again after you missed out last season. I don't think he's getting enough credit for it. So yeah, beyond our game, I wish you the best. And just to finish on Arsenal, I do think they'll bounce back and finish in the top 6 and get the playoffs next season.
They find a way. I think they'll manage to find a way, and they'll be lucky to get so, just as they got second when the year won the league. Similar thing. Anyway, yeah, thank you, Ali, for joining me, mate. I really appreciate it. I'll leave his socials down below. Well worth checking out his channel as well. So, yeah, thank you for coming on, and we'll see everybody in the next video. So, goodbye.
Yes, mate. Thank you.